All right, this week, Chris and I talk about what the duck happened in Leonardtown. So check it out.
All right, welcome everybody. This is Get Real with Chris and Mark, and today we're going to figure out what the duck happened in Leonardtown last weekend.
That's great. So, tell me about this duck, Chris.
So, town of Leonardtown had this really innovative and creative idea, and I give them tons of kudos. They're probably going to get more and more kudos because they brought in this blow-up rubber duck.
The largest rubber duck in the world.
The world. By the way, it has its own following on social media.
Okay.
The duck does. And people travel far and wide to see the duck. And this past weekend was Wharf Fest. I have a hard time saying that, by the way. I don't know why. I've had a hard time saying it. Wharf Fest. And it was, I think, 15 years of the Wharf in Leonardtown, the revitalized Wharf. And they brought in this rubber duck. And the rubber duck, people flocked, no pun intended.
Yeah.
People flocked to this rubber duck, and there were 10 plus thousands of people.
That's a lot of people.
In Leonardtown this past weekend. And so they had activities,
I knew it was going on.
Right.
But I was like, I'm not driving to Leonardtown to see a duck. You know?
No, me either, but it's funny.
I take that back, though, because I had to go out of town unexpectedly. And, I don't really make decisions in my household.
You probably would have been going, I think.
There's a good chance I might have been down there with the duck this weekend had I been here, so I take
I knew something was going to be coming positive out of this one. I was there Friday morning. I was doing another thing Friday morning in the square, and it was early for me. It was like 8 a.m. in the square, and there were tons of people walking the streets, pouring down rain.
Yeah.
Okay, it's raining Friday morning. People flocking the streets. The local businesses, the coffee shops had lines. Mm-hmm. So right away, there's some heart or something to this activity. And I think we were saying before we started, like we were talking, all it takes is a blow up rubber duck to get that many people to come. Like,
that's awesome.
I mean,
what a great economic driver.
That's
right?
Really smart, and I think all the businesses. I think when they do their post-op of this, they're going to find out that there's such a positive impact that this made on local businesses.
And all over a big blow-up duck.
Right? How simple though, right?
So
you know
simple,
what I mean?
so silly. I think it speaks to the fact that things that are seemingly hard really aren't that hard.
Right. Now look, that's not minimizing the organization
and
the planning,
not at all.
Right? Because that was an excellent job,
I
right?
Think
I know what you're saying. I know you weren't saying that.
But I mean, the concept of how do I get people to an area? How do I spark economic growth? How do I increase the vitality of an area like Leonardtown or Solomon's?
No, right.
How do I drive business, right? And I think that the answer is just do something.
Just do something. I agree with you.
Right? But a duck, a big blow-up duck is pretty cool.
Right,
so,
and we're not going to go with our previous suggestion.
Your head was right where I was. We're going to create a big blow-up something else.
And something else.
And see if people will come to see it.
People will come to see it and put it in Solomon's. That would really attract people in Solomon's.
I half jokingly said, 10,000 people came there? There's no way they would bring a duck to Calvert.
Right.
Calvert doesn't want that many
We don't
people.
want the traffic.
No matter how good it is for business, no matter how supportive it is of the community, no matter how many taxes it would bring in, Calvert would probably not be okay
Let's
with
get
that.
real and talk about that for a second. Like, that's the problem, right? Like you got it takes a little bit of risk.
Yep.
Right? The investment is risk, obviously, right? In bringing whatever this product is, this blow-up duck or whatever the hell it is you're bringing in here.
Yeah.
That's a risk, but that's not the risk.
Right.
The risk is you got to get local government behind you.
Right.
And that's hard.
Yeah, because...
And it shouldn't be.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to keep poking fun at Calvert, but, I'm sure you had to permit putting that duck somewhere, right? That would be a 2-year-long process.
I think you're right. It would take you a couple years to get it through zoning.
And what's really...
The temporary duck permits?
Yeah, the temporary duck permit. But we don't have a temporary duck permit.
Right. We can't do it.
Can't do that here.
Can't do that here. We don't have
There's
one.
There's no classification here
for the duck.
temporary
Is that
duck.
a class A or B duck?
Yeah. That would definitely be a Class A duck.
Class A duck.
But I think that, when you look at things like bringing the duck to Leonardtown, right? Those things tend to happen. It's interesting to me, like big events, creativity, those things tend to happen in small towns.
No, in municipalities they have.
That's what I'm getting at.
I agree with you.
The municipality has the ability to govern itself in a way that's small and local enough that decisions can be made very quickly in order to mobilize and make something like that happen. There's less red tape in the municipality.
That's again, it's just so sad because something like this, we were saying, what can we do now? If it makes people think outside of the box? Yeah. What can we do in Lexington Park? What can we do elsewhere that's going to drive, right. be some sort of driver to get people to come see, right? Yeah. People to come into the town and experience whatever it is that it is.
Man, I feel like we have local resources right in our backyard that we could do that with.
We do.
We could do that with airplanes, right? Like, what if the Navy brought out a X-47B, that crazy freaking looking thing, right, and put it on display
and said, "Come see it."
In the middle of the parking lot in Solomon's, for example.
Right.
People would flock to come see something like that.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think we need we need to be so much more open-minded and just creative. Don't work in a vacuum.
Right.
Right. We don't do that. We don't need to do that anymore.
I think. And we were talking mainly on the aspect of government, but I think that government and people in general just need to have more of a can-do attitude.
Yeah, instead of cannot.
So, when you come up with an idea, for example, how many people, the first thing out of their mouth are reasons why you can't do what you want to accomplish?
Right.
Can't do that.
Right, can't do it.
Oh, we can't do that because we'd have to go through the permit process.
Right.
Right. We couldn't do that here because we don't have enough parking. It just goes right into why we can't do something.
It drives me crazy because instead of that, why didn't you say, okay, we've never done this before, but
what would it take to
let's
do
see,
this?
what could we do? We could, we can add some additional parking here. We could do some things here, and that's what honestly. Leonardtown, great job because, I drove into the square. They had the parking situation sort of under control. They had the trolley. You went up to Riken and you went out to I think CSM was one as well. So they had the whole thing under control. They knew under control, right?
Yeah.
For that many people.
I think it's a lot easier to find reasons why you can't do something than it is to find...
Well, of course it is.
Yeah.
Right, because you don't have to do it.
Right.
Right? That's it.
It's a lot easier to just do nothing.
Nothing, right? It's easier to do nothing. I just think we need to I'm so happy that they did that because I think maybe someone
will pick up and see that
they'll go, wait a minute.
And isn't that exactly what we want?
It is.
And going back to Calvert County, right? The story is always that Calvert County is a bedroom community.
Right.
This is a place for families. We don't want more growth or any of this stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, families need something to do.
Well, and that's the thing. If it's to go see a duck on the weekend,
I venture to say a lot of families from Calvert drove over the bridge.
I would venture to say so as well.
To go see a duck this weekend.
I would venture to say that as well.
Because it was something to do in Southern Maryland. So, what can we come up with
to do
over on my side of the bridge?
Oh, let's see. I'm sure there's got to be something we can do, Mark. I mean, we'll figure something out. We'll get a giant something.
Giant something.
Well, it's like the old, if you think about it, all the historic, Route 66, and they have the world's largest rubber band ball and things like that. People go to those.
I want to backtrack for a second, though,
okay?
Because we just had the Calvert Marine Museum on here.
Yeah.
And we gave them a lot of praise,
and they do a great job.
And thank God for what they do.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you.
And obviously, they do get a lot of support from the county in order to do what they do.
Of
course,
there
are good things that happen too. And I tend to be a critic, right?
No, I get it.
But at the end of the day, there should be more of that. It shouldn't take just the Marine Museum to come up with that stuff. Like the Solomon's Business Association, you know, for a long time they've put on the fireworks. Right? They banded together with the county to put on the fireworks show in Solomon's. But we just have to look for more opportunities to do things like that and think outside the box. I venture to say a big yellow duck is outside the box.
I would say so.
I'm curious, how did they come across this duck? Did
Don't
this
know.
guy knock on their door and say, hey, Leonardtown, I want to bring my duck in?
We should maybe bring in somebody from the town and have them come in here and talk about that activity. I'd love to talk to them about it.
I'd love to hear
more about what they did and how it happened.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could do that, and I think I feel like there's a bigger picture in this that could really catalyst all of Southern Maryland if people jump on board.
So you were saying earlier that Slice House sold out of pizza.
That's what I heard. Yeah, they had their duck pizza. They had a Peking duck pizza for the weekend.
Oh, that's so cool.
Dude, they had there was everything down there. Like there were rubber duckies on every corner. Like
really?
People decorating their house with rubber duckies.
That is so cool.
I think it was the buy-in, right? The town, and you do have a little.
You need to have that.
You got to have that, right? And so it makes it harder in other areas to get everybody to buy in. But if you get people to buy in on something like this,
and it's cool that you got a town that's working together like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that you're right on that. I think in some cases, not everybody spends the time to collaborate and work together and continue to move the needle forward as one.
So a little sidebar. I said I was going to talk about this. So there was a bit of duck controversy.
Oh.
There was duck controversy this past weekend.
Okay.
See, the duck was on land.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And some of the pictures of the giant duck that they've seen online and stuff, it was on the water.
Okay.
And so apparently there were a lot of people that were upset
because the duck wasn't on the water.
The duck wasn't floating on the water. Ooh. Right. And so my understanding from some other things in an interview on the Baynet that they had, I think. So it cost a lot more money. And then I thought about it, right?
Put the duck on the water.
Put the duck on the water. And my first thought was that's bull, right?
Yeah.
Blow it up. But then I'm like, it's a giant duck.
Right.
It doesn't just, it's...
You're not just going to pick it up and throw it.
Right. And then, so they got to have a barge, and they have to have, like, electricity, and they have to have, to it. So, and I understand it was significantly more expensive.
How much more, do you know?
I heard up to $50,000 more.
Holy cow, that's a lot of money.
Well, I mean, I guess you're bringing in a barge, and somebody, I could be wrong.
Next week, I will have a bigger, better duck.
Right. But I'm so glad that the town is doing something like that, and just bringing in an opportunity like that into the community, and people and families could go down there. There were activities and all the ice cream shop.
Leonardtown's got it going on, man.
They do.
We talk about Leonardtown all the time on here, and I just wish that some of the other jurisdictions would take note as to what they're doing and look to create a similar collaboration, a similar environment.
It's funny. I was in North Beach recently, and they do some stuff like that. North Beach and Chesapeake Beach have done some really good
collaborated.
Stuff. They're doing some creative stuff as well.
Yeah, they used to do the First Fridays up there. Or the Friday farmers markets.
Something like that. They still have the farmers markets every weekend.
I haven't been up there in forever because we used to live in Huntingtown and we used to go every Friday night, and it was cool. You'd see everybody up there. There's ice cream. There's vendors.
Yeah, see.
You could get a beer and walk around.
Nice. That's pretty nice.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Thank you, former Senator Mike Miller, for somehow getting that done up there to where you could have
just walk around there. But I mean, I think they're one of the other, and again, it's all falling on the municipalities because the counties aren't doing it really. I mean, St. Mary's, I think they're open to doing something like that. It's just they haven't been. It hasn't shown up on their doorstep, I think. Yeah. So
cool.
It'd be interesting to see what they can do.
So, if you want a good business model, make a giant something, and people will pay you to take it to the town.
Right. And actually, it's funny because a lot of the stuff that's like we were talking about is. I think there's a lot of money in what happened there. I mean, there's a lot of money went through the town of Leonardtown this past weekend.
You think it's worth whatever they spent?
I cannot fathom that it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when I like I said, 8:00 in the rain on a Friday morning, and there's a few hundred people walking around Leonardtown. That's got to tell you something. And it wasn't even open yet.
I think that. Obviously, that stuff drives tourism. Tourism drives business. I think tourism is a big business here in Southern Maryland because, outside of the base and the contractors and stuff that we have, and then the local businesses, obviously, they're the lifeblood of everything. But I think that tourism is big business. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, like the meeting that you and I attended a few weeks ago. Tourism's kind of the talk of the town. But I think that what we need to see is, I think business owners have ideas, but we don't have time to execute in a lot of cases.
You're right.
So when you have a government entity that's willing to work alongside you and step in and take the reins and grab an idea, run with it, find a way to put it in place, I think that's a good use of our public resources.
I agree.
Is when our public resources support the idea of a business owner that benefits all in a way that takes some of the work.
It's funny. I know that Leonardtown has also not only dealt with this, but they also had their pushback on other things as well. They had I think a paddle boat or whatever, one of those giant steamboat that they got some pushback in the community, and they decided not to. But the trolley situation they're doing now, they're running the trolley over Leonardtown, and it's really just a great thing. But so I think you're
not going to make everybody happy.
That's true. That was my point.
And usually there's a small, loud, angry population that's mad because the traffic's bad for a concert or something.
Right. And I mean, it's funny how people are focusing on different things, but even the governor announced recently that I think August, I don't know the date, August 20-something, they're naming it Beyonce Day in Maryland.
Okay.
My first thought was,
why?
Really?
Right.
Right, really? But I guess I'm sure there's some sort of economic development kind of piece to that because she's coming to perform at FedEx Field.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess I get it, right? It's just funny how those weird things just kind of pop up and happen. So, anyway, that's what the duck happened this weekend in Leonardtown.
Yeah, there we go.
Anyway. All right, I guess we'll wrap it up.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. See you next week.